10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. We want to welcome you to another episode of the Men of Promise podcast, A Man's Conversation. So to our young men, to our teenagers, our sons, and men involved, we want to say welcome. I want to introduce my co-host, Ariel Prater, and my other co-host, Mr. Minister, Reverend Bishop, Deacon Kim Jackson. And I want to just say, I hope everybody's week was blessed. How was your week, Ariel?
It's been good.
Good?
Yeah, no complaints at all.
Okay.
Ricks is rolling by here.
Okay.
We're about to be in it end of the week. Yeah, I'll be, we always living for the weekend.
Well,
so
good. That's good. That's good. Beautiful family, beautiful wife.
Yep.
My weekend was good.
Good.
My week has been good. I'm challenged because I'm in school. I'm teaching. I'm running my warehouse. I'm literally about to fall off this seat, but I gave it to God, and I'm praying that He gives me the strength to get through this today. We've had some very good podcasts. This will be our fourth podcast.
Yeah.
And you guys can find us at Seven Spring Studio and soon to be on Promised Land International Ministries YouTube page. So look out for us. We're still working through trying to get the little kinks out and the bugs and things of that nature. So stay tuned with us. We appreciate your tuning in to us this week. So we started with the identification of a man.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yep.
went to what was our next subject? We talked about I can't think of what we talked about.
Going back a couple of weeks now.
Oh, well, last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week?
Oh man.
That's bad. But you can't remember. Well,
Mask of a Man.
The mask of a man. The mask that men wear.
Exactly.
So we discussed the mask that men wear and how it is a negative or a positive.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, our conversation is going to be the desire, the dedication, and the discipline that a man needs to live in the world today.
Yeah, that's great.
And so for me, growing up, even though my dad wasn't really in the house, he still gave me some things that were integral in being the man that I am today.
Yeah.
Like one thing he told me, he said, don't ever drink and don't ever smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
So the first time somebody asked me to smoke weed, what came up in my mind was my dad said, don't do it. Don't smoke.
Mm-hmm.
So, my generation, your generation, we grew up with parents who instilled in us discipline.
Right.
And our desires and dedication at the time, even though we were kids, were to make sure we didn't get punished, we didn't get whooped and stuff like that. So what do you think the definition of desire for a man today, the definition of dedication, and the definition of discipline, what we need today, what we have had in the past and what we've seen in the past versus what we see today? Give me.
Definitely. I think so all of them I feel like are connected, all those D's. But biggest thing is you do get that from your childhood. I think you get most of that discipline, which goes into your desires, and then you have to have that dedication to get it all done. That starts in your childhood. I feel like that starts very early. You may get part of that from your parents. You know what I mean? Like your dedication and things like that. And then your discipline. You definitely get that from outside yourself. And if you don't have that, you got to get it from somewhere. And I know we've talked about just, your upbringing and everything. I know mine. I know where my discipline came from. Definitely came from my dad, grandfather, grandmother, mother, all those people around, uncles, all that helps mold you into the person that you need to be, especially when it comes to discipline. And getting your desires correct. But you, back to you, because that's always my question, right? Is if we didn't get it early, because we're talking to a lot of men out here that may not have gotten it early, and you can't write them off. Right. We can't say that they're not going to ever get it or can't get it. But what would be your advice back to them, especially if you're saying, hey, I got a lot of it from my dad. Did you get anything else from outside influences? Did you say, and I know your story, but did you have to say, hey, I got to get some of this from somewhere else?
Well, it wasn't that I was looking to get it from someplace else. Mm-hmm. My mother had 4 brothers. Mm-hmm. And with my dad not being there, they were a influence, but they weren't integral. It wasn't like I was afraid that my uncle was going to come chastise me. My mom chastised me. So if anything, the discipline came from my mother, but it was a desire that I had to have for me.
Right.
In dedicating myself and saying, I'm tired of getting put on punishment every weekend because I'm breaking her rules.
Yep.
So to throw a question back at you, what happens to a society or a generation that does not get the foundation of discipline? What do we see? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And you know, is that what we're seeing in the world today?
Oh man, that's a deep question right there. I feel like we have had a couple of generations of no discipline, no reinforcement, right, of behaviors that we know that may not be the best behaviors ever, but it comes down to time. You know, people just, how many times do your mom have to tell you to do something over and over and over again? And I think, you know, just part of that's lost, and they just don't have the time to do that, whoever that figure is.
Or they don't make the time?
Or don't make the time, right. I feel like that's definitely a great argument. They don't make the time, but you have to have that.
Yeah.
I mean, any kid, I don't care how smart, how, you know, how forthcoming they are, how great they are for, you know, in what they do. You still need reinforcement. Like you got to have that. So
one of the challenges in my house is I have 7 kids and 5 of them are brainiacs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have one that is the kinesthetic learner like me, and I would tell my wife, you know, even though we have brainiacs, we still need to have a degree of discipline in them.
Yeah.
Because in my high school that I went to, the brainiacs were kind of left alone.
Yeah.
And the bad kids were the bad kids. But what we found out is the brainiacs start building bombs because nobody was monitoring them. And then they're blowing up toilet stalls in the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody were like, well, you guys are the smart ones. Yeah, you didn't channel that smartness. You didn't challenge that smartness. And you labeled them as good, not understanding that even, you know, challenged kids aren't bad kids.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where it's not a society issue. For African Americans or Black people, it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
But it's not just cultural; it is societal because it goes all the way around.
Sure does.
You have white kids getting in trouble, just like you got Black kids getting in trouble. Everybody's doing it. And so now, where does our society go if there's no discipline or reinforcement of rules, regulations, and guidelines that we need to live? Because a man who defines himself as a man is going to discipline himself for his future, for his family, for his house, for his kids. And even if he doesn't have, even not saying he's the perfect man, he may have money issues. He may not know how to balance his checkbook. That's where the woman comes in and backs him up. That's what completes the man. And so, you know, for you to be the man that you are today, what are some of the desires that you had that came to fruition? What are some of the things you dedicated to, and how did you implement that discipline into your life to achieve where you are? The houses, even like with your properties, you know, you got a property downtown, you got a property on the outskirts of town, and then your own personal property. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. So I think it starts with just thinking through it. I know you brought it up even a couple of weeks ago, but your goals, you got to have goals. And you got to really think, where do I want to be in whatever 1, 2, 5 years? And then you got to have a plan to get there. And that's where the discipline does come in. And maybe you weren't instilled with all the discipline that you need.
Right.
But you get there based on, man, in a year, I want to be here.
Right.
And then you put aside all the childish things like we talked about before.
Right.
And saying, hey, I got to get to this place because I either got to provide for myself, my family, get things right, just at the job, everything. I want to move ahead. I want to get money to have properties, those types of things. And that goal setting is important for you to get, your desires, first of all, but having the discipline that you need.
Right.
I mean, you said it all the time too. I just go back to things that we've been talking about on this podcast. But you said, hey, I don't have time to sit around, and you're not getting checks from anybody else. Yet no business is giving you a check. You're not going 9 to 5. So you're working. You got to be out there. You got to be providing for your family. So it's not for you. It's not, hey, I can't just sit down and rest. No, I got places to be. I got things to do because I got to make money and provide for my family.
So in this society where there is a lack of discipline, and I'll just be honest with you, I see, well, let's go back to my statement. Boys play house.
Yep.
Men build houses.
Right.
You have an older generation of men who have houses and they're taking care of their families, but you have this younger generation who likes to lay and play. And they're subsequently relying on a woman to provide everything. And that's part of our culture.
Right.
But at the same time, what do you achieve as a man leaning on a woman? Because your dedication to being a man should make you stand alone.
Right.
Not I mean alone, but make you stand on the principles that are going to put you where you would like to be.
Definitely.
And I can say for me, and I'll use this example. When I was in barber college, my instructor, Mr. Welch, he came to me one day and he said, stop following all those other barbers. Reason why I was following the other barbers is because they were working in the shop.
Yeah.
No shop would hire me. These guys were cutting designs.
Yeah.
They were the cream of the crop at the time, and I didn't have those skills, so I was following along behind them. And Mr. Welch said, stop following. You're going to be a greater barber than them.
Oh, that's big.
I didn't see that. He did.
Right.
So those barbers were chasing money. My educator, my teacher made me chase education.
Right.
And so what happened is education. When the opportunity presented itself to me, I was educated and prepared for the opportunity.
Right.
Which was working on a music video in 1993.
There it is. Yeah.
Somebody saw my work, my dedication, and they put me in line, and that's what started my career as a celebrity or barber stylist in the entertainment industry.
Right.
But there was more things I had to add because it's difficult when a video shoot starts at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and it goes till 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Been there.
What do I have to do as a man to make sure that I'm presenting myself the best that I can in this situation?
Right.
So,
you said something key, and I want to pick up on that because you said your education, things that you were doing, you were setting yourself up. Right. Because you could have been following behind the other barbers.
I could have.
Would that have gotten you to where you've got needed to go though?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
Let me go back to Mr. Welch. Mr. Welch said, you're going to be a better barber than them.
Yep.
None of those barbers are still in the industry.
Wow.
Today.
Nobody's in the industry. Wow.
Not that I know of, not that I can find. They have gone other careers. Again, they were chasing money. I was chasing a career.
Right.
Well, what happened? When my education met the opportunity, money started chasing me.
Man, say that again.
Money started chasing me.
Right. But even before that, the education meets meets your demands.
Right.
So you have to prepare yourself.
So my desire was never to be a barber that worked in the entertainment industry.
Right.
My desire was to be the barber that everybody wanted to come to. I wanted to be the greatest and the best barber.
Yep.
So my desire was my goal.
Right.
My dedication was to my craft.
Yep.
And my discipline came in. What do I need to add to my desire and dedication to get to the place that I need to be? Stuff like I never liked alcohol, so I was a social drinker.
Right.
But I found out it's difficult to wake up from a hangover and then be at the shop at 7 a.m. in the morning.
6, 7, yeah.
I did that one time.
Right.
We talked about that. My cousin said I was popping pills, but no dogs is caffeine.
Man.
But we don't see desire, dedication, and discipline anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You see a desire, but a desire is not fulfilled without dedication to work towards your purpose and discipline yourself. And
That's
so
key.
now, being 51, I've been able to retire 2 years ago and not have to work in the entertainment industry, not have to work in a barbershop, fulfill my dreams and working in other avenues that have been opened up for me. And again, Hollywood is still calling. And so it's important, men, that you understand that the idea of doing things, doing something is not great enough to get you where you need to go.
How many times or how many other people would just raise their hand after, saying they're a barber and want to go work for thousands of dollars a day? Nobody would keep their hand down.
Right.
No inspiring barber would say, no, I don't want that job.
Right.
It was what you did to get there. And that's what's key. It's not, hey, I have the desire and not put forth any effort into it. You still had to go to school. You still had to be around and learn different things, learn different styles. I don't know everything about barbering, but you had to learn all that before you got to the position. And then when the position called, you were ready to go.
Ready. And it's not even about cutting hair.
Mm-hmm.
The barber that goes into this industry about cutting hair is going to lose off the bat because I was the big brother. I was the counselor. I was the minister. I was baptizing people. I was the mentor. I was all these things, and that brought business to me because people were like, "Hey, come check this dude out," because he's not just giving haircuts; he's talking knowledge. But again, I was in the streets, so there were some things that I had to do to discipline myself, and my desire. Again, we spoke about this last week. I wanted a successful marriage.
Right.
I wasn't shown that, but I had to give my desire to God and say, God, this is what I want, and allow him to lead me. Well, I had to dedicate myself. I did a year of celibacy to rid myself of things I was used to doing in the street.
Right. Preparing myself. Right.
So that, and it's ironic that I moved to Atlanta a year after getting married. And I mean, you could get a chick here just by saying hello.
Yeah.
So just think if I didn't discipline myself before I got married, and I would be cheating on my wife.
Right.
I wouldn't keep the dedication that I had to, and the commitment to me first for my wife because of how easy it is. So, with you going to school, with you going to law school, with you being the songwriter and a musician that you are, your desire came from your parents, but your dedication, you had to have your own dedication.
Of course. Still have my own desires. Still have my own goals.
Right.
My early life set me up for that.
Right.
But like you said, the preparation is key. You can't just stand up and say, I want to do something without saying and get to where you're trying to go.
Right.
Without putting some type of work in.
Right.
So it was all those years of taking piano lessons and playing for churches and playing at different venues, doing everything I need to do that set me up for later in life where I can, go make money off the music. But it couldn't just start. How many piano players can just hop on the piano and be great?
So what is your discipline? What are your principles of discipline in your craft? What are some things that you had to do to set yourself up to be different from the next gospel artist, songwriter, musician that is out there today?
Yeah, definitely. So biggest thing is practice. You got to be a good musician. You got to be good at what you do. For anything, and we'll go back to anything, but this is not just a principle for being a great musician.
Right.
But you got to put in the time and effort to do something, and I say daily, especially when you're first learning. Even more when you think you got it, you still don't know everything.
Right.
So putting in that time to really learn your craft is so important. And that goes for music. That goes for definitely law school, real estate, everything that you do. You still got to put time there. Learn what you're doing. Get around people around you that are like-minded. Those types of things that you can always still glean some information off of. So you're still always learning.
Where did your desire to want to be in real estate come from? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that was the desire to not have to do a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life.
Right. So
That,
a future goal that you started working
Yeah.
on before you let your
Right.
9 to 5 go.
Exactly.
Because from what I see, society, kids are saying, I'll let go of the 9 to 5
Mm-hmm.
to pursue this business with no principles, no background, no
No cash.
nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know how they do it, man. That's
But then they fall back on somebody.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah, because did you really have the dedication? Because too, when you look at it, it's I think you need collateral to make any type of money, right? You need money to make money.
Right.
You got to have some seed, some starter, something. And for me, that was the 9 to 5. It's
Right.
like the 9 to 5. I'll do this for a couple years. Let me do that, build up some money, save,
right.
and get to my goals of, hey, I want to buy, and I knew exactly what I wanted to buy.
So the desire was real estate.
Yep.
The dedication was I have to save. I have to make some. I have to make some principal changes.
Yep.
And then the discipline comes within the desire and the dedication.
Right.
So you acquire your first property, not the one downtown, but the one on the outskirts of town that you physically had to work on.
Sure did.
Daily.
Yeah.
What was that process? Because you have to first assess the situation.
Right. Yeah.
You still got to have some cash.
Right. On hand, ready to, do. And the other thing is, I didn't want to pay somebody like you, contractor, $20,000-$30,000 to get me started.
So is that why you never called me? I never gave you an estimate, so you don't know.
Right, because I didn't want to. I didn't want the check at the invoice at the end.
Okay, so tell us about the dedication that you had to give to get this. All right, so what is your goal the day you walk into that fixer upper complex you have? What's the goal?
The goal was so it was a pretty nice property. It was okay, but I wanted to charge more money.
Right.
I wanted to get maximum value out of this thing, and also wanted to, if I ever wanted to flip it, that it brings me back even more value.
That it was prepared when opportunity came.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I started. Anybody that would move out, we'd go remodel that apartment.
Okay.
And by we, that was my dad and myself.
And we did not include Craig. Okay. So I understand who we is.
Yep. So we were up there every Saturday for, I would say, a year and a half. Every single Saturday, we're up there. We're gutting the place. We're putting in new drywall. We're putting in new electrical. We're doing plumbing. We're doing everything, flooring. Learned so much from doing that. But I said, in the end, I'd rather do this than $50,000 coming out of my pocket. Because in the end, that's what it would have been.
Right.
And for me to pay $10,000, if that, and just supplies, and then the rest of it was sweat equity, got me to where I was supposed to go.
So your desire and then your goal, they had to be achieved together.
Right. Because
the goal was not to pay somebody and put money in somebody else's pocket when I have the resources to do it myself.
Right.
If you have a comment, if you have a question, you can call us at 404-940-3535, or you can email us at menofpromise2018@gmail.com. Those are for people who are listening and may have a comment or a question. Either call us or shoot us an email. We will be monitoring our email. So we're ready to respond to anything that you have to put out there. So I have a construction company.
Yes.
Remodeling. That didn't get hired by you. We'll talk about that later. And so I have people that tell me, say, Craig, I want it done, but can you cut as many corners as possible?
Exactly. Right. All that.
Or they want to buy their own cheap materials and then want me to install it.
Right.
And so one thing for me, how I got a lot of the jobs that I have now is because my wife is a real estate agent, would always come across work that was done that wasn't done the right way.
Yep.
And so my wife would always say, hey, I'm not really referring to my husband, but I know he does it right because he doesn't like to redo his work.
Right.
And so the customer buys cheap materials, and I would have to warranty it because I did the work. And so now I found myself coming back to do work on a cheap product, and then I'll start saying, no, I won't do it for cheap. I'm not cutting corners, because for me to drive 45 minutes to fix something and then drive 45 minutes, that's an hour and a half out of my day. And that's the discipline that I had to then put in my construction business. Not that discipline didn't come just from the construction business. It came from me, who had to instill it in the construction business, so it didn't cost me more. So fellas, when you do not operate in desire, dedication, and discipline, it will cost you someplace else.
Say that. Yeah, exactly.
You will pay someplace else. Let's talk about the man who sells street pharmaceuticals.
Yep.
You have the desire to be a businessman. You have the dedication to be a businessman.
Sure do.
But your discipline is not pro society.
Yep.
And so what happens if you get caught by the police? Now you're in the system.
Yeah, you have to pay.
You got to pay. You're going to pay.
Right.
Regardless. The man who doesn't want to marry the girl, and he has baby mamas on the side, you're going to pay.
You're going to pay. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Hey, you pay down the line.
You pay down the line. The man that does not, I bought a car for $300. The guy did not take care of his car. So when it cut off on him, I picked it up for him, brought it to the house. I said, man, I'll give you $300 for it. Turned around, sold the car for $2,500.
Didn't know what he was doing. He didn't even know.
He did not have the discipline. He did not have the desire. He would rather drive it till the wheels fall off than to work on it himself or take it to get worked on. That's the society that we're in today. It's that this is expendable. These are resources that I didn't have to work for, so I don't have to fight for it. Where for me, I would get angry at my wife because she wouldn't eat leftovers.
Yeah. Man,
because
that's not me.
She, not me neither. She grew up in a house where her dad cooked for her every day. He was a chef. I grew up in a house. My mom was in school. So if it's something that we cooked and we ate leftovers.
Yeah. It's actually 2 or 3 days.
Right. And then you add a little something else with it, you make it stretch. And so we're going back to the desires and the discipline and the dedication that a man needs to live in society today. What happens when a man has desire, dedication, and discipline, but he has it without God?
Man, you already know how that goes. So you gotta have faith in this thing. I couldn't even imagine doing it because in anything that you're doing, right? Even coming up for you barbering, for me in the real estate, music, everything, you come to a hard place. You come to a place where it's like, man, did I choose right? Did I do everything I needed to do? Or it's really hard, right? Or there's a roadblock somewhere. And I feel like that happens in everything, in your goal setting and your desires. You're gonna come to a point where it's gonna be like, man, this is hard. Or did I choose right? Or am I doing what I need to be doing? And then at that point, that's when you need some faith. You need some God faith,
some relational faith.
Yep, something that says, hey, yes, you are supposed to be here. You're supposed to be doing this. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
And you need that help to get over those hurdles.
What's the difference between a desire without God and a desire with God?
Desire with God, desire without God.
So I'll give you an example. For me, before I had the desire of wanting a successful marriage, I was running the streets.
Right.
My desire was for companionship. Didn't matter who it was.
Right.
I just wanted her. She looked like that. She gave me what I wanted. You understand what I'm saying? It was a relationship. But then when I started to find out that the women that I was dealing with, there was no substance there. So now I'm even feeling emptier because I'm not getting what I thought they were going to give me. And God then picked me up and says, I have something for you, but there's some things that I need to put in you. You have to have my desires.
That's good.
You have to desire the desires that I desire for you to have. That means that I had to change my thought process. I had to change my barbershop for where guys were coming in cursing to guys that we were listening to scriptures, we were listening to ministry tapes and things of that nature. But that was the process that I had to desire God and God's way to get the things of God, to get the barbershop, to get to the Tyler Perry, to the entertainment industry. and be the man of God that he is calling me to be.
Good.
Without dedication, without desire, without discipline through the Lord, you will always have an open door for an enemy to come in and take you out, to delay you, to deny you, to destroy you on your path when you say, I'm tired,
right?
I'm weak.
Especially when
right.
When that hurdle comes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's coming.
Oh yeah, it definitely comes.
It's coming.
Especially when you're doing what you need to be doing. Yeah.
And if you don't have any discipline, you have nothing to fall back on, because when times get hard, what do you fall back on?
Yeah. Old stuff. Yeah.
We have to learn as men to have the relationship with God, so when times get hard, we know who to fall back on and where our strength comes from. And I can look back, and when I did not call upon the Lord and I handled it with my own strength, I grew very weak very fast and fell back into things that I did not desire or dedicate myself to do anymore. And so it even pushed me even more, hey, I got to get my relationship with God back, my desire, my dedication and discipline, so that even if I fail or I mess up, it's not because I failed and went backwards. It's because I failed in the attempt to be successful. And that's nothing but a notch in the belt of achieving your goal. That's part of the process.
That is part of the process.
That's part of the process.
Process of getting there. And I think you said something important. Also, it is, for me, it was like he channeled your desire.
Right.
He channeled it into a place that it was supposed to go. Because like you said, we have the desire of, hey, I just want to be with somebody, versus, no, I have the right somebody for you.
Right.
And this is what it's going to be. And using that and channeling that, your own desires, into something that is praising him for doing what you need to be doing for God. So that's really important in your taking that example of, yes, he channeled. Like, I want to hear about this warehouse, man. Can you tell us about that and all that and how that came to be?
All right, so I'm gonna share with you that, but I'm gonna go back to the desire of wanting a successful marriage.
Yes.
I wanted a successful marriage, but my examples of a successful marriage were not there. My grandfather was married for a long time.
Okay.
But it wasn't within arm's reach. Like, my grandfather lived like 4.5 hours away. If I wanted to talk to him, it was not a problem.
Right.
And so the desire was, all right, God, I'll do anything that I need to do to get the wife that you have for me. And so this is what happened. I was journaling, spending some time by myself, and I heard the voice of God say, I'm preparing your wife for you. And he told me 5 things about her. Now, I told you I had 7 girlfriends before.
Yeah.
I was going to a church where it was 7 women to 1 guy.
There you go.
And again, we're in Southern California, so this is babe heaven.
Right.
And this is the 5 things he said, and I remember it to the day. To this date, I can tell you the date, the time, and everything. It was June 8th, 1998 at 6:18 p.m.
Wow.
This is journaled down. My wife has read this. She's seen the journal. The 5 things that it said was, your wife is not at your church. She's not in California. She has a son. She has a ministry for women. Along that line.
Right.
And start praying for your wife every day. So from June to January, about 6 months.
6 months.
I prayed for my wife every day as though she was next to me.
Okay.
On January 17th, there was an email that was returned to me from her.
Okay.
It said, hey, got your email. Give me a call at your earliest convenience. Well, it's 7 p.m. in California. It was 10 p.m. in Atlanta, where she was. Well, we got on the phone. We started talking. In the middle of the conversation, the Lord said, stop and pray. So I just stopped and prayed for her.
Right.
So what came out is what I've been praying for the last 6 months. Well, that conversation turned into, I think you might be my wife. We got married 3 months later.
3 months. Yeah.
Met January 17th, engaged February 14th.
Wow.
Married April 21st. April 21st this year will be 25 years.
That's great.
I would not have been able to plan that out. I would not have been able to keep my discipline, dedication, and desire if I had not worked for it.
Yeah. Right. Your preparation.
My preparation.
Yep.
My desire founded my dedication, which gave me the lines of disciplines that I needed to operate in to achieve the goal. 7 kids.
Yeah. 7 kids.
7 kids. Multiple properties. Multiple businesses.
Yes.
All right, I have a gift that most people don't have. They have it, but they don't know that they have it or know how to hone into it.
Okay.
The Bible says that God is no respecter of man. What he does for one, he'll do for the other.
Right.
But you have people with spiritual gifts, and my spiritual gift is that I hear God speak audibly. I remember my dreams. I remember my visions. I'm in tune like that.
Right.
So I'm at Tyler Perry's studio. This is during COVID. It was called a bubble, where you go into the studio. They house you for 3 weeks, 1 month, however long the contract is. You were getting paid 3 times the amount. So if our regular check was $2,500 a week, it was like $7,000.
Yeah.
Almost $8,000.
Nice number. Yeah.
And all your food, room, and board is paid for.
All done.
So it was a Thursday night. I go to sleep. I have a dream that I'm selling stuff out of a warehouse.
Okay.
And I called my wife the next morning. I said, babe, I was selling stuff out of a warehouse. The dream was real. It was vivid. God said, work on it. So for 2.5 years, this is November 2022.
Okay.
We're looking for warehouses all across Atlanta. We're purchasing stuff. We're buying stuff. We had 4 storage units, 4 10 by 20 storage units full of stuff. Now, I've always sold stuff online, Facebook Marketplace, Mercari, things of that nature, but it was never on the level of what I saw in my dream. December 27th, 2023, we fall upon this warehouse.
Yeah.
And the warehouse was really there to store my cars. And God said, no. Remember the dream I gave you? This is where you're going to do this dream. This is the hard part. Did I ever work in a warehouse? I worked for UPS. I worked at an electrical warehouse, but I was 14. But I don't have warehouse background.
Exactly.
But the discipline that came from organizing, structuring, what I needed to be a barber and open up my barbering business fell parallel to what I needed to do
to open this warehouse.
Yeah. So now we have a warehouse that's structured. It's nice, tidy, it's clean, it's inviting. It's called a thrift warehouse, but when you come in there, we don't just sell thrift items. We got PlayStation 5s, we got brand new purses, we got watches, we got pool tables. We're not the typical thrift store. But this was all a vision that God had given me that, guess what? It wasn't my desire.
Right. It wasn't your desire.
It was not my desire. It was a desire that was given to me. And then once God showed it to me, I dedicated myself to it. Well, there was one day I walked 12 miles in that warehouse.
Wow.
That's how much I walked back and forth. 3,300 square feet, just the whole day. I looked at my step track, 12 miles.
That's how much work you're putting in.
The discipline has come down to where people come in and they love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I can tell. I have a very good client.
Yes.
Sitting behind a microphone that has not just supported my business, but comes in and says, I want that. I want this. And it's much appreciated.
Yeah.
So again, when it comes from God, the true essence of a man is a man that's made in God's image.
Yeah.
God's likeness.
Mm-hmm.
Because God has desire.
Yep.
He has dedication.
Mm-hmm.
He's faithful.
Mm-hmm.
And he establishes discipline for his children.
He does. Yep.
There are men out there that you need to hone in on one of these three things. You need to work on that in your character.
Mm-hmm.
If that's you, do not hesitate to call us at 404-940-3535 or send us an email at menofpromise2018@gmail.com, because you have men here who will help you hone in on that desire, making that goal, dedicating yourself to that goal, and also bringing the discipline into your life to help you achieve that goal.
Yep.
Without those things, you achieve nothing.
Yep. Exactly.
I wouldn't have the warehouse that I have if I didn't submit my desire to God.
Right.
Because I, at the moment, would make more money in the entertainment industry. I would make more money barbering per hour than I make in this warehouse.
Right.
But there's a purpose and a goal.
It is. That's not always going to be.
It's not, and I can't see it. I don't have to see it, but my faith in God knows that. Again, Reverend Carlton said, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the thoughts I have for you.
Yes.
A plan of peace, a plan for your future. And when you have faith in God, you don't have to know your future.
Right.
Because your future is in God.
Right.
This conversation, this podcast is dedicated to men, and it's a conversation that men need to have. This is the same conversation that goes on in the barbershop all day long. This is just an extension. And we want to help men. We want to help you. We want this conversation not just to help you, but once we help you, it will transcend in the lives of those who you connect with and contact with and things of that nature. And so that's why it's called a man's conversation, because there are things that I need as a man in my life that I can get from you, but it will not come unless we communicate it. We talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to sit and talk about it. We have to be vulnerable.
We do. You got to sit and talk about it.
You got to sit and talk about it.
Because hard conversation. Because
desire is not good enough to achieve the goal. And sometimes you need a man to sharpen your iron and help you hone in to that desire and what you need to do to get that desire. I desired to be a good barber.
Yes.
My barber college instructor had to hone in on that desire and say, you know what? I'm finna teach you how to cut straight hair. I was like, Mr. Welch, ain't no straight hair, man. No, he said, I don't care if it's not. He said, the more services that you sell, the more money you can make.
Right.
Because the more customers come in, you have a wider variety.
Back to the education and preparation.
None of the barbers who I was chasing or going to school with ever tackled straight hair.
And how much money did they lose over the years because
thousands and thousands? Well, let's do this. Let's understand what happened 10 years later when I moved from Inglewood, California to Cobb County, Georgia. I found a barbershop that was across the street from a dealership, and all these white guys were coming over looking for a barber.
Right.
So I gave this guy a cut, and he loved it. And next thing I know,
all these guys
are coming. Yeah. So I had to call Mr. Welch and say thank you because I moved to a town where I have no income.
Right.
And within 3 months, I'm making the same money I was making in California. Wow. So the education and the preparation met the opportunity, and it provided for me.
It did. Yep. Met the opportunity.
People nowadays lack the education.
Yeah.
And let's stop with education. Let's just start with knowledge. Because, knowledge and education is two different things.
It is.
Knowledge is being knowledgeable of something. Education starts from the beginning, and it takes you through knowledge.
Yep.
So when I teach at school, all these barbers, these students, they come and they say, well, Mr. Craig, I saw this video on Snapchat or TikTok. I saw this video, and I say, let me share with you something. The way they approach this haircut is wrong. And when you approach it this way, X, Y, Z is going to happen. I've seen these videos, but not the ones they're particularly talking about.
Right.
So we watched 10 videos, and in all 10 videos, 10 different barbers did the exact same thing in the video.
In the video.
When I did my procedure, what they did that was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
the procedure they did that wasn't beneficial, I did not do.
Right.
I stayed within my guidelines, my discipline. And they said, well, what's the difference between what you're teaching and what they're teaching?
Right.
Number one, they're not teaching.
Right.
Teaching is the art of giving education, which is knowledge.
Right.
So this is what I tell them. I said, young man, I can teach you how to change the brakes on your car, which I'm giving you knowledge.
Right.
But education says I have to teach you about the whole braking system, the brake pedal, the brake fluid, hydraulic pump, the brake lines, the calipers. It's not. It just don't.
Not just the brake pads.
Right. So if I teach you how to change the brake pads, what happens when it's not the brake pads?
Exactly.
What happens when it's a tear in the hydraulic line? What happens when it's the caliper? You're now lost because you're not educated from A
That's good.
to Z.
Yeah.
And so now men are now operating on the knowledge of being a man and not the education of being what a man needs in this society today.
Yeah. No, that's a great example. Great example. Because you got to learn everything about something. Yeah. So if something breaks down, what do you do? Where do you go next? And a lot of people don't have that knowledge in a lot of disciplines, right? They don't know what, because you've just been taught whatever. Or you might have learned it and thought you learned whatever that somebody gave you. But great example. You got to learn the whole system.
You have to learn.
If you're going to be good at what you're doing.
If you want to be, if you want to be knowledgeable, it means that you're educated.
Yep.
But having knowledge does not mean that you're educated. All these haircuts, thousands and millions of haircuts on social media, and 99.9 follow the same rule of thumb, and they all have the same results.
Yep.
So what do you think men in society are doing when they're watching videos and they're seeking knowledge of what the trend is?
They get an easy little snippet or sound bite, and that's what they're going on. They think they know something because of that little snippet.
And they don't.
Yep.
And they don't.
Right. And that is our society right now. It is sound bites and snippets.
Yep.
And thinking you have a bit of knowledge because you have some sound bites and snippets, and you haven't really learned anything about the discipline.
So how do we get men to become educated?
Yeah. That goes to your preparation. So if you are, because how many times have we heard about let's take legal knowledge, for instance, and people that think they have it.
Right.
But law school is 3 years, plus college before that of 4 years. Do you think they got most of the information that any lawyer would get in law school? Or did they just get a couple snippets on? And don't even talk about how many people watch a TV judge or whatever, not knowing half that law is not even real, whatever made up mediation type stuff.
Right.
But swear they know. Like, so if your desire is to be a lawyer and really know legal knowledge, you probably need to pick up a legal book at some point. Right. I'm not saying that go to school, but at least read read legal law. And
then finish that up with somebody who can show you legal law.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, which is usually a lawyer or a judge or somebody that's actually versed in that.
Right. Or
a professor, somebody that can that actually does know what they're talking about, but here's a black letter of the law. Right. Here's what the Constitution actually says. Here's what, if you're really going to go by that.
So same thing with being a man and having the desires to do things that men do is you have to surround yourself around people you want to be like. You have to surround yourself around people who are more knowledgeable than you. Submit yourself, your understanding, and say, hey, I want to be a better man. And I'll share with you this. There were men who I watched from afar to see how they handle certain situations. And not saying they were always right, but I didn't have a guideline because my dad wasn't really there instilling. And I picked up a lot of great things.
Yeah.
I also went through a lot of discipleship classes and I picked up a lot of great things there.
Yeah.
My desire to be the married, committed man had to be worked on, like you talked about daily.
Yeah.
But
Preparation.
it also had to be something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And not fail myself because it was too hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, your desire was still God given though.
Right.
And you knew that was in line with what God had given you. So it becomes a little bit easier to focus on that.
It does, but it doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we already know there's going to be things thrown in your way all the time.
Because let me tell you something. One of my ex-girlfriends found out I was getting married.
Yeah.
And she popped up at my shop. And I was actually on the phone with my wife.
Wow.
And I said, such and such just pulled up. And she said, what's she doing there? I said, hold on. I got this.
Yeah.
It's a public barbershop.
Right.
And I can't keep the public from coming in. So she came in and she was like, well, what does she have that I don't have?
The question.
And I answered her question. One word. Me.
Yep. Wow.
And you should have saw the look on her face. It cracked.
Yeah.
Because she was operating in a narcissistic, selfish, prideful demeanor.
Yeah. Right.
And she was wanting to know, I'm 36, 24, 36. I'm pretty face.
Yep.
What does she have that I don't have?
Right.
And it wasn't that she was more beautiful. It was that God said, this is my wife.
Right.
And she is not.
Not it. Yep.
Her desire was her desire. It wasn't the godly desire.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's big time.
So
you picked up on that.
You know, I told my wife at the time, I said, I got rid of her. Well, she shouldn't have been. I got this.
I got this. Yeah.
I got this. Because what does she have that what do you have that she don't have? And it was me. That was the common denominator.
Right.
And we were done with that.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. We had a good conversation today.
Oh, yeah. It was good. It was good.
Where does the man who need to work on the 3Ds start right now if he sees that he's lacking in one of those areas?
Well, it always starts with God. You got to go there first.
Okay.
Get some counseling. Talk to somebody.
Okay.
Reach out to somebody.
Reach out
to somebody.
Okay.
That can help you even form what your desires are.
Right.
And then after you get that counseling, that's when the other 2 Ds come.
Right.
That will help too by talking to somebody, by getting there, by putting things down and saying, what's the plan to get here? You planned, you gave so many examples of plans of how to do things. And the things, it was hard things sometimes to get there, but you knew that the desire came from God. It was of God, and matched what you wanted internally.
Right.
And that's what you put together to get you there.
So you said something key. You just said something key. Write your desires down.
Write them down. Yep. Talk about this plan. Let's put it down.
I remember writing in my journal what I wanted in a wife.
Yep. Yeah. It focused.
I also remember a conversation that I had, and it was not with God, but men, I want to tell you, when you think, God hears you. When you talk to yourself, God hears you. I had dated an Asian girl, and this is when the O.J. Simpson situation was going on. Okay. And she was like, O.J. is guilty. And I'm like, girl, you ain't from the hood. Like, we innocent until proven guilty. But I was challenged with that because I did not want a relationship with somebody who could not relate to my struggles.
Yep.
So I told God, I didn't tell God. I just basically said, if I ever date another Asian girl, she has to be half black, half Asian, so that she will understand.
Right. The struggles.
The struggles.
Yep.
And my wife is half Korean, half black. And I didn't pick my wife.
Right.
This wasn't, oh, she fine, I want her. This was, God said, He met me at a burning bush.
Mm-hmm.
He said, go here, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
And my desire was to listen and be obedient to God.
Yep. Definitely.
And so, not saying that my marriage is perfect, because you got to work on that marriage every day. But through God and the desire that I had that he gave me, I was able to obtain not just a successful marriage, but a life that has produced successful fruit.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And I'm glad you told that story in particular to show even some of the desires that, you know, you had internally. You didn't even know what God had for you in the end, but it matched your internal desires at the end.
Yeah.
If you're following him, if you're doing the preparation, the things that you need to do, if you're planning, your reward is that much greater. So that story just sets it off for me.
So if you're a man out there today, some of the desires that you have are godly and some may not be godly. But the only way that you're going to find out if they're godly is to come into that relationship with God, come into that knowledge and seek him for the knowledge, the understanding, the education. And let me just go back. Before I could discipline myself to be committed to my wife, I first had to discipline myself to be dedicated to me.
That's good too.
Because if a man disciplines himself according to a wife or a woman, you're going to discipline yourself based on emotion and not structure.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Take your desires, write them down. Take your goals, write them down. Put them before God. Put them before God in prayer. Put them before other men in a higher stature that you can trust, that you could be vulnerable in front of, and be dedicated to walk your desires out daily.
Every day.
In my educational class that I took to become a barber instructor, it says nobody can make you study. You have to want to study. You have to want to know this stuff, because there are 18 chapters in this book, and this book has at least 35 to 40 pages per chapter.
Yep.
This book has 401 assessments that have to be turned in.
Man. Yeah, that's serious.
You got to be dedicated to doing what's put in front of you, no matter what it is. And let me say this. If it's a mountain, I said this on a previous podcast, give it 10 minutes today. Give it 5 minutes tomorrow. Give it 30 minutes the next day, whatever you can. That mountain will begin to be knocked down the more you stay dedicated, steady at it. If you always look at that mountain, it's going to stay a mountain.
It is.
Even if you got to dig that mountain out with a spoon, you will get there.
You'll get there. Yep.
So, in conclusion, Ariel, give us your conclusion for today's podcast.
Yeah, man, I think it's been a really good one today. The 3 Ds. That's what I'll go back to. Really focus on that desire and what it is. Go to God in it. Talk about it with other people. Put it down, like you said. Write it down. Develop a plan. And then the other 2 Ds: discipline. Dedication. Those will come if you really know what has been given to you as an assignment by God. You can really focus on it and get there. And like you said, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, especially if it's something that is really big, something really grand on the other side.
Right.
But your reward from being dedicated and determined and disciplined to get to your desire is going to be that much better. Part of it is the process of molding you.
Right.
But once you've done that one time too, it's so much easier to repeat that process.
Right.
And whatever's next for you in life. So
because you've attained knowledge, you've attained some knowledge of.
Yep.
So with your 4-banger for place property, it makes it easier when you attack the 8, the 10, the 16. Repeatable.
Yep.
Same process.
Exactly.
Same process. Men, there's nothing too hard out there for you to do. You can achieve it.
You can do it. You can do it.
You can do it. Again, there's an account. Let's talk about accountability of a man.
Okay.
Next week, let's talk about the accountability. What accountability brings.
Yeah.
Because me and you have a story of accountability when it deals with our relationship and our friendship. And I don't know if you want to share that.
We'll get into it.
Okay. We'll get into it. But man, you also need accountability, and accountability is the process of you being vulnerable to another man, but you allowing him in your vulnerability to stand with you.
Yes.
As you're growing, as you're fighting, and as your process is being in action.
Yep.
You will get weak. And accountability says it's somebody that comes along that's either stronger than you.
Yeah.
To
definitely
come
helps in the 3Ds, discipline especially.
Yeah.
It helps you keep on that path.
Yeah.
If you are accountable to somebody.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to get into it.
Okay. So next week we'll do accountability of a man. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach us at 404-940-3535, or you can email us at Men of Promise 2018 at gmail.com. So good show, good conclusion. God is good. We want to thank those people who tuned in. We would like for you to tune back in with us next week, every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Yep.
We'll go live on Facebook. Our replays will be on 7 Spring Studio YouTube page. We have not set up our Men of Promise page where we're downloading stuff because I still need to get a couple logos done. We're still playing with some stuff. So in the interim of being brand new, please work with us. But I believe the content is good enough to help you grow,
get there,
and become better in who you want to be. Men, your job is to infect and affect all those who are connected to you, other men, other communities. Your wife, your kids, and your children are most important. Your home is most important, that you infect them with positivity in your everyday life. Let's end in prayer. Father, we thank and praise you and give you honor and glory. We thank you for your spiritual desires that you give us. We thank you for your spiritual dedication that you sow in us, and the discipline that you choose to add to us, that we are very much like you, made in your image, Father. And we thank and praise you and bless you for the men that are here, the men that are to come, for my co-host, and the men who support me. We just thank you and bless you and give you all honor and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.